Hello and welcome everyone to our Digital Codes Premium Revit Add-in webinar. My name is Phil Anthony. I'm with Digital Codes as a ICC Digital Codes Solution Specialist, and I assist people with their needs to meeting their objectives with the Digital Codes Premium software. We continue to add more features and add-ins to this, Revit being one of them. I will turn it over in a second here to our Revit expert, so to speak, Eric Stover. What I will state here is that we are recording. We will send out the recording to everyone that has registered. During the presentation, please feel free to ask questions, post them in chat, post them to everyone so we all can see the questions being asked. If it's something strictly related to Digital Codes Premium, I will try to answer those questions in the chat. If it's something pertinent to Eric's presentation right at that moment, I may interrupt him. If not, we will definitely circle back to catch all the questions in chat. And then perhaps for longer questions or more intricate questions to be asked, we'll allow people to do that verbally and we'll unmute the microphones. So I will step back here, Eric Stover, and it is all you.
Great. Thank you so much, Phil. And as Phil mentioned, if there's any questions along the way of anything I mentioned, please feel free to speak up and we'll stop and answer those questions in real time. So appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. Today's webinar is really about kind of what our latest release of our Revit add-in looks like with Digital Codes Premium. So let me slide here. So a little bit about me. I've been contracting with the ICC since spring of 2022. I'm based in Northern California. I have about 30 plus years, showing my age, in the AEC industry, delivering all kinds of technology. I spent 20 of those years at Autodesk. I was responsible for all things AutoCAD for at least 12 years of that time. My role with ICC is to help synthesize a vision around the BIM and CAD world, put a roadmap together, and then build it with my development team. And I'm always happy to connect with peers. So if you want to connect with me, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to share what I know and listen to your ideas. So when we went about thinking about how we're going to integrate with the world of BIM and CAD, I think this is kind of our North Star for this project, is that for building professionals like yourselves who want to create a safe and sound structure for your clients, this Revit add-in is a digital tool that enables the architect, structural, MEP, and fire protection engineer to validate construction plans with published applicable building codes during the design process itself. So as we continue to build this thing out, this is kind of what our mission statement looks like. This is what our key focus is as we add features and continue to grow this product. So it's a free Revit app, so it integrates seamlessly with your version of Autodesk Revit. So we support today Revit 22, 23, and 24. We're about to release Revit 2025, hopefully by Friday. If not, it'll be next week for sure. And it enables you to access building codes directly within your design environment while you're creating. You can access all the relevant codes for your project in one central location, along with all kinds of enhanced features for efficiently navigating and getting help with understanding the code. And I'll show a number of those here today. So let's take a look at what's in our latest release, including everything we've added up to date, and then I'll run a live demo here in a bit. So once you've downloaded the application and install it, you'll see our main menu. So let's kind of go from left to right on our icons. So starting with our codes library, it centralizes all of your favorite code books in a single location. It's kind of like it is a library of books. You'll see that it's feature rich, enabling advanced search. You can bookmark, you can PDF print from it. You can even share the project codes all from within this particular location. And so when you're accessing the building codes inside of Revit, you have various options available to you. At the very least, you can always interact from within Revit with all the I codes and state codes for free. It's called our basic subscription tier. But using the free add-on, you can access all these codes within Revit, again, for free. But we have this thing called Premium. And so Premium is a for-fee service that offers an ever-growing list of features and improvements that's delivered on top of an increasing inventory of titles, all and content that is curated by the ICC. So you can subscribe to a single title, a bunch of titles, we call collections, or everything we have in the library. And that's what we call Premium Complete on the right-hand side there. And no matter what level you choose, if you want to stay free or you want to go to Premium Complete, that the Revit add-in integrates with all the features and content as a subscriber to a service. So again, you have the option to decide what level of feature content you want, and again, the Revit add-in will support all that. So just a little bit about the kind of the pricing plan. So I mentioned there's a free option, but you can also subscribe to content and these features for a month, a year, even 3 years to any title or bundle of titles, which also comes with a set of collaboration features to help you navigate, document, print, and share that content, as I've mentioned before. And as you can see, here's there's this is sample pricing, but your mileage may vary depending on the content you're interested in. And again, I'll call out that Premium Complete offering on the right, which again provides access to the entire inventory of everything and every feature we've ever produced, again, for monthly, annual, or 3-year price. And again, there are discounts for membership, duration. Again, the longer you subscribe, the less expensive it is, or by volume of seat purchased. And then lastly, if you want to give the complete experience, so that's that everything bucket, if you want to give it a test drive, we do have a 14-day trial. So you can look at the link, it's on the website. And you can see on the right-hand side, there's a short list of what you'll get access to. And then after you're done trialing, all the various options for the content, you can decide to fall back on the free content or purchase features or titles that work best for you in your circumstances. So any option you choose here will work within the Revit plugin. Okay, so that's kind of context of okay, so you boot up the Revit plugin, and here's kind of the world of content you're exposed to, and there's a variety of subscription programs to all aspects of that content. So let's think about dive back into the Revit product itself. So again, so you have all this content available to you. The next thing we've instrumented is a project information dialog, which again, it captures basic key elements of the project each particular Revit file is associated with, including all relevant building codes. You can see that in the screen capture on the right. This information is saved within each Revit file, and anyone with access to the model will be able to see what codes are applicable. We store all this information locally, so nothing is saved up into the cloud to protect your own IP. So we also link this project and code information to our cloud just to help us begin to drive the right content at the point of need while you're using Revit. So since if we know what codes are applicable to this particular model file, we can actually be very smart about how we serve content at the point of need, and I'll talk about that in our futures part. And again, so again, this is just kind of a highlights of what this project is all about. It's stored with the Revit file. So next up, so once you put that information in, we automatically create a building code summary schedule that will stay up to date with any code changes you may need to make on the project as your work progresses. And then once you place the schedule on your cover sheet, you know that it'll stay up to date even if you make any changes down the road. So it's a live link to that if I go back a screen, it's a live link to this dialog box. So as changes are made here, you'll see those updated on your sheet where this building code schedule is placed. And then once the project information is entered, we create on this in the cloud, we create project tags in our library. You can use these tags to organize your notes. Additionally, we automatically favorite all the titles you've selected in this Revit file, so it's easier to get to the content of interest for your project. Plus, knowing this code information helps us start to drive the most applicable content while you're working. And next up is AI Navigator. So in terms of getting help, we have this new artificial intelligence tool that can offer quick, helpful replies to your basic code questions. So it kind of does the scouring of the codes for you. So you ask a question, it goes and locates what it thinks is the best answer in terms of reference material. Right now it's plugged into the iCodes and state codes, but again, it's like this kind of chat bot that again you can interact with to get your questions answered in terms of where's the best information for this particular topic. And beyond AI, we have this thing called Premium Answers, and it's essentially a constantly expanding searchable database of questions and their interpretations from the ICC team of technical experts. That's a mouthful, but essentially what it is that members submit questions. I try to understand a little bit more detail about a code snippet, and the experts at ICC in those fields will write responses. And this is really just essentially an ever-growing knowledge base that's curated by the code experts themselves. And additionally, if we have this ever-expanding help system for this product. In addition to the AI and premium answers, there's a live chat feature if you want to reach out to us in person for help. We have this YouTube channel that has also an ever-growing list of helpful videos and webinars on demand. So no shortage of access to the team. And then lastly, we've included a simple alert system to let you know when an update is available. So when a red dot appears, we've all been trained with red dots in all of our applications. But once a red dot appears in the About icon, click on it, and we'll take you directly to the download page where you can get the next free update. We're striving for an update every quarter with some minor performance updates in between. And again, as I mentioned many times, again, these Revit updates are all free. And so the next red dot you see, if you have it installed, will be the Revit 2025 update with some features in that. All right, so let's take enough sliding. Let's take this for a bit of a test drive. Let me escape out of here and switch back over to Revit. All right, so I brought up a demo set of files to look at. So let's go ahead and bring up the app. So to find the app, if you scroll over to add-ins, that is where this product gets installed. So let's go ahead and I'll type in my name. My mouse clicks, and then my password. Stay logged in and sign in. Hopefully that all gets me where I want to go. And it does. Okay, so when you first sign in with your ICC credentials, you get this particular screen. So hi, welcome back, Eric. And on this screen, just a number of things to call out. First and foremost is that for any titles that I've recently viewed, they're all listed here. And in terms of kind of the subscription that I have, and so I'm like a staff member, so if this is like premium complete, if I look at premium titles, it shows me that I have access to 2,300 code titles, again, under the subscription program. And then I have a place for favorites. So if I want to favorite any titles, I can go in and actually select those as needed. But again, this is kind of your first stop towards picking a title to take a look at. On the right-hand side, we showcase kind of what your profile is and your kind of what rights and privileges you have to all the technology under that subscription. So it shows me I have access to all these various features. And then below that, this is our list of kind of everything that gets updated every single month. So you can actually click on one of these drop downs, and we actually will give you a very long list of anything, again, that has been updated since the previous month that you can then click on and open up. So there's that, just trying to keep you up to date. And then there at the bottom of the screen on the right is concurrent access. So this is a feature that if you're a premium user, this is almost like if you think about Netflix password sharing with your kids, same kind of thing here is that you can get a code under your subscription and share with other people who may not have a premium access or may, and they can have access to your notes and titles and bookmarks and so on. So again, this is so that if you're working in a team, this is a really useful feature to have. All right, so let's go dive in on one of these titles to look at the 2021 IBC. So when you look at any title, on our site within this application, it brings up like any other book experience would be, right? You have the contents on one side, usually the left, and then on the right is the material that you can have access to and you can read. So if I kind of dive in let's look at something like chapter 6, for example, and let's look at construction classification general. So you can navigate the book by chapter, by section. And as you do so, on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the content that you can then peruse. So again, as I mentioned before, you don't need a subscription to access this content. These I codes are all, again, freely available, so are the state codes. But I want to call your attention to this wrapper that's around most of the paragraphs. So at the top, you can see there's these various icons. And so what these enable you to do, and this is kind of where, again, if you are a premium subscriber, these things start to show up. That, again, I can go ahead and highlight sections, I can bookmark sections, I can share text with other people via email. I can print sections to PDF and so on. And then below, you see these premium code insights. So this is kind of where all the extra content comes in, again, as a premium subscriber, where we have things like we detail code changes. So these are like comprehensive backgrounds on each change, including the original proposal, committee action, and final documentation. We have these hearing videos, which again are recordings of testimony with rebuttals regarding change proposals from the ICC committee action and public comment hearings. Premium answers, I mentioned before in my slides, but I'll show you an example of that. There are study topics that provide practical learning assignments and contains specific learning objectives, applicable code text and commentary, and all summarizing key points. So again, these kinds of extra content that is additive and these features that are around the actual content, again, this is part of a premium subscription. But again, if you're under like a basic, you can still access all the content. You just don't have access to these particular types of features. And you can see as I scroll down through the content, there's all kinds of extra information about each topic. It's like stuff we've learned along the way that our experts have contributed to help inform, more about this particular topic in this, in this particular book, the IBC 2021. So again, lots of really great extra material here. Excuse me. So the other thing too I want to call out is that under each title, you can see that there are different versions of the title. So if you are looking at what something might be published a little bit older, same book, you've got 3 different versions of the IBC here that you can have access to. So I'll just stay on that. You have a list of notes. So again, as you're taking notes, and I'll show those in a minute too, you'll see those notes all listed here under this book. And then also any sort of insights, again, from the ICC team to help you have, again, as it says, a greater understanding about the code. You can click on that for that extra information. Okay, so that's a little bit about how book navigation works. And again, you can access any book at all. The behavior model is the same, no matter what book you're looking at. Let's go back out and bring up our project info screen for this example. And let's go ahead and start entering project information for this particular Revit model. So in this case, in this example, this is the Snowden Towers project. So I'll put that in here. And the location of this is in Tempe, Arizona. Project type is a mixed use and jurisdiction is Maricopa County. And I'll just type in basic description. And then so for this particular project, I can make a decision to say, okay, so what's the building code that's applicable to this? And I'll go with 2021 International Building Code. Go down further. Let's say I want to put in the plumbing code, and you can actually type ahead. And so I know that Tempe, Arizona actually has their own specific adopted building codes. So I can look in here. Is there plumbing code here? There is. So you can start to see that I can enter all these different codes that are relevant to this particular project. And I'll go ahead and save that. And as we're writing this to the Revit file, I'll say, okay. And the next thing you see is a dialog box that says, oh, there's an updated building code summary table. It's now available in the schedule quantities section of the Revit project browser. That's a long-winded way of saying that if you look at your schedules, you'll see an actual new schedule that is automatically created called Building Code Summary, which then on this cover sheet I will bring in and insert, and I'll scroll in for it. And you can see that this is now reflects what I just put into the project information screen. So now let's go ahead and back to the project information. And let's say I want to edit this, and maybe I am going to abide by the International Building Code for my structural. Let's see, fire code. I think Tempe's got its adopted fire code. Let's look at that. There's one there. And again, just for the sake of this example, let me save it. And again, as we're writing this back to Revit, click on OK. You can see on the screen that the schedule was automatically updated with the changes. So the thing is that no matter what changes get made, this particular summary schedule will always stay up to date in your Revit file. All right, so next up, let's go back to our codes library and talk a little bit about project tags. So let me refresh this. And on the menu side, if I click on this and go down to Premium Tools under my project tags, you can see that the project name is automatically been created and the tag has been produced. And so what this allows you to do is that as you're creating notes and bookmarks throughout any particular book or code title, you can apply this tag to it so that it makes it easier to search on things that are relevant to this particular project. And you can have an infinite number of tags for your projects, but this is kind of a way to help you get organized. So let's go back to the book. Let's go back to my. And if I look at favorites, I always want to call this out too. So as I put those codes in, we automatically favorited those titles for you. So if you go to manage favorites, you can see that here. And let's go ahead and bring up back the 21 IBC. And so like, for example, so now that I've got a tag against my project, let's go ahead and look at, let's pick up like occupancy and classification. And let's look at section 304, group B as an example. So now if I want to call this information out to somebody else who is on my team, or just as a reminder to myself to understand, in this case, like business group B, and again, just using this as an example, I can highlight this information and go up and go ahead and create a note. And I'll just write a note like note this occupancy classification. And then when I go down to select a project tag so that this node is now associated with the project, I can click on Snowden Towers and then save that off. And then what I've done is that if I go to my notes section, you can see that in this particular title for this project, I can actually see all my notes. So if I click on this, it'll actually bring me back here. And you can see that there's a new note that's been appended to this section. And so under each book, the notes category lets you easily access all those notes that are you're actually actively creating. That's a little bit of how notes work. And again, how I can apply it to project tags. So if I go back to menu and my premium tools and my notes and bookmarks, you can see that in this summary space, if I hit the, click on the download button, I can actually look at, again, under each title, I can see all the notes that I will create over time. I can also do things like sort by project tags. In this case, I only have one tag, but you get the idea that if you have multiple tags, you can see all the notes in all the code books that are relevant to each particular project that, again, you can generate a PDF from. And so like in this case, let's go ahead and select all my notes just for the sake of showing this off. So I clicked on generate PDF. I actually get a PDF document. Then again, I can save or I can share with others on my team. All right, so let's go back to the 2021 IVC. All right, I have to go back to my favorites. Oops. Let me use the dashboard instead. Click on this. And in terms of taking text and documenting your drawings, let me go back and bring up a sheet here in Revit. Let's see, scroll down at my sheets. Let's use typical public restrooms. And let me scroll into one of these details. Bring it in. So what we've enabled in this, without this interface or throughout this interface, and I've already done this before, so I'm interested in some of the code snippets around public toilets, and I'll do a search on that in the search bar. And you can see below that it's found it in the 2021, and it takes me to the right location. So let me click on that section and go right there. So what I can do if I am looking for, again, more information as I document my drawings, I can actually take this code snippet and copy it over. And let's go back to do an annotation in Revit, and I'll click on text, and I can go ahead and paste that whole thing in. And as you can see, I'll get rid of the P. Again, you can take code snippets right from the documentation itself and bring it into Revit and help, again, document, communicate, again, code information within the context of the drawing sheets themselves. So that's a little bit about copy and paste. Let's go back to my screen. And then also things, again, if I wanted to share this with somebody else, this information, just to want to make sure I showed this off. Again, you can put email addresses in here and it'll actually send emails with the links to the sections to anybody else on the particular team. You can copy the URL if you need to, and share it off. And also, as I mentioned, we can print a PDF here as well. So there's that. So again, the next thing that I want to showcase is, let's go back to my dashboard. I want to showcase the AI Navigator. So if you're looking for, there's a button for it in our add-in, so I can either click on AI Navigator, or I can actually navigate from this location. So I'll just do that. And so as I mentioned, again, this is really where, this is a tool that kind of helps you get guidance on your code compliance questions. So anytime, anywhere, directing you to the most appropriate sections of the code. So that's really it. You ask it a question and it goes and finds what it thinks is the most appropriate answer from within the code, that then you have to rationalize what you're reading. It's not telling you it's not telling you and informing you what the code means. It's actually just pointing you in that general direction. It's trained on the I codes currently, as well as the state codes. It searches the 2021 editions of our product. So if you click on the download, you can say, what year of the codes you're looking for. You can download, hit the drop down and pick a jurisdiction. And again, in this case, my project is Arizona. And again, over time, as this thing learns more and more through usage, it's kind of like a child, right? The more it learns, it's like a sponge, the better it gets. That we're going to start to extend this into other years of the titles. 2024, I think, is coming next. But the idea is that, again, you can type a question in, and I've asked this before about what are the exceptions for glazing adjacent to doors. And so what it's doing is it's scouring all the content in 2021 that's related to the jurisdiction in Arizona, and it's coming back with the most appropriate content it thinks is relevant to the question that I'm asking. And so as it's kind of filling this whole thing out, I'll let it finish here. It will again point me to the place where it found these answers. So again, I can actually go see reference sections in each of the locations. I think it's also very important, and as you use this tool, that you rate the answer, because what this does is it helps train the AI engine. So if you say, you know what, this isn't quite right, it's perfectly fine to say it's a thumbs down, because that really helps it learn. Or if it's right, teach it that it's right. So I can click on, say, okay, that's really interesting. And I'm actually using the IBC 2021. So let me drill down to that and show me the section that it got it from. So it gives me a little code snippet from that section. I can also jump to the section within the chapter. So it actually goes back to the book and shows me this particular location. At which point I want to highlight this. I can actually put a bookmark against it, and I'll just put in glazing, for example, assign it to my project, Snowden Towers, and save it. So again, as you can see, as you're using these online manuals, you can take notes, you can do bookmarks, always appending to the project that you're working on, so that you always have a list of information that's relevant to the project, that's important to you. And that's part of what this is, why you want to kind of append all this information to a project, and why we're trying to make it easier and easier over time to do so. Okay, so the next thing I want to showcase, let me go back to my dashboard, is we have a button for premium answers. If I go ahead and open that up, what I mentioned before, so it's, again, premium answers is kind of the human part of all of this help. So it delivers a constantly expanding searchable database of questions that are curated by and interpreted by the ICC team of technical experts. They're real opinions from ICC experts on a broad collection of titles and topics. And so if you're a member of the ICC, you can submit a question for clarification or review, and they get reviewed. And these questions, which are the most common, do get posted for the rest of the community to benefit from. So you can see here, there's a whole list of questions that have been answered. And so let me do one example where I'll just type in, I'm curious about atrium separations, and let me type in atriums and see what comes up. And so in this particular case, does the IBC require that multi-story atriums be separated from adjacent spaces? So if I click on that, again, a customer sponsored question, you can see where, as I scroll this down, the answer from the ICC team, is kind of like what the experts think and how they interpret the code and the question that was asked. And again, so all really interesting information to again help you understand the code a little bit more in more detail. It's a really nice feature. And again, I think that when you have a knowledge base like this that's growing and growing and growing, again, it's really a central repository of information. So it makes it easier to reference and retrieve relevant data when you need it. And again, most of all, you can learn more from the curated answers, improving your own knowledge and skill over time. So again, you have the choice, right? So you can say, go use AI Navigator and ask AI for like direction of where the code is. But this is kind of the next level. It's like, well, hey, I really don't understand this. I'd like to ask a question to the experts and get their opinion on it. So again, with all these kinds of things, I think, like I say, in summary, these helpful tools is really, we're here to help you level up your expertise with the building code. Plain and simple. It's like, so you've got essentially features in Revit today that let you access all the building codes. We start integrating the building codes within your building information model, starting with the project information and some basic scheduling, some basic copy and paste features. And then you have all these various ways to reach out and get help to understand what's going on with the code or how to interpret the code. And that's kind of where our focus has been for the last year, is really trying to level up your expertise and give you the knowledge you need to be better in terms of understanding what's there. I would say that what's coming next, and I'm going to switch over to the roadmap here in a minute. What's coming next is, now that we've kind of infused all this with access to help and to level up again your knowledge about the codes, is to start think about how we start tightly integrating this with your usage of Revit. And so let me go back and switch to my PowerPoint presentation. And let's talk a little bit about the roadmap. So when we think about building information modeling, this is a very common image of kind of all the various processes that are involved in bringing a product like a building to market, and then maintaining it over time, all the way to the point where it ends of life. Very, very manufacturing centric. And where we think about kind of the building code and where that is most important, obviously in design development, analysis, construction documentation, also in renovation, is where codes are certainly critically important. And this is kind of how we think about, like, okay, so in these various spaces and these activities that people use BIM tools and CAD tools for, how do we make it easier to, again, understand the code, but also along the journey of design help you make informed decisions without interfering with your design work? Because we know that that can be offensive too, if you remember Clippy from the old Microsoft days. So if we think about the topic of design development, so I'll just read this out loud, that this phase takes the floor plans, elevations, concept sketches, established in the schematic design phase, and fine tunes the details. And at the end of this phase, the developer will have a clear understanding of how the building will look, feel, and function. So in this arena, here's kind of what we're thinking in terms of what's coming next. That many folks in the AEC space usually work like this. They have dual monitors, their design is on one, and they have a bunch of other things going on the other screen. Our thinking here is that as we provide all these various windows, these are all meant to kind of help inform as you're doing your work. So you could always go to the right side of the screen and get reference materials, or have AI help, or again, navigate the premium answer section, and use that to kind of help get information while you switch over to the left-hand side and actually do your design work. And as we think about expanding this into other applications beyond Revit, this is kind of the model we're following, that you do your work on one side and then you get all your materials and help on the other side. So starting with, again, just making things a little bit easier, that once you fill out the codes library, the project information, we're going to actually provide these most recently used menus so that it's easy to get to each title that you're actively using through the ribbon menu in Revit. And then every section that you spend time on, again, you'll see those highlighted there. So it's easily like one click and then a second click to actually get to a section that, again, you've been actively involved with or using, even maybe applying notes to. So that's coming soon. And then as you're documenting all these notes, again, what we're thinking is there'll be a notes feature that kind of aggregates all this stuff together on the cloud, that again utilizes the ability to save it all out to PDF or share it with other people, but just make it easier to kind of aggregate all this information under your project. I showed you a little bit of that today, but again, this will be more robust. Also then thinking about, linking the Revit to the project's building codes, so that again, if if we know where this product is being built, and the jurisdiction, we can start to understand and even pre-populate the applicable building codes, in the project for you if you need help with that. But then also really kind of take the entire, I showed you before, there's like, if you're in this thing called Premium Complete, you have access to 2,700 books. Well, what this would do is, while you're working in the context of this project, it would narrow all the content down for what's the most important for what you're currently working on. And then that would change as you go from project to project or Revit file to Revit file. We would again scale all this information back so it's easy to navigate, so that you're not burdened with looking at like, well, I've got all these books to look at, and what's most relevant for me, what's most important, what sections are most important. And this is kind of how we start to tie Revit feature functionality to, again, what you've entered in the project information screen. And then you can also start to think about like, well, if you put an AI engine or a wrapper around this, you can actually make that do all the heavy lifting, because then what it can do is say that over time, people who do the following, feature functionality in Revit, and it looks like this in Revit, you typically go to this part of the building code, in this jurisdiction, and then the AI engine can actually show you that information because it's learned how others' behavior with what they're doing in Revit. So we can do something like this, which is kind of just very much us saying, if then do this, if then else. Or we can have something a lot smarter, which we're looking at, that actually kind of understands what you're doing and provides information based upon what it is you're doing inside of your BIM application. And so that kind of leads to something like this, that again, whether it's AI or we do this, programmatically, we can push search results by object, filtered by your project information. So again, based upon what you're doing in Revit, we can make, provide some sort of information in a window that shows you relevant code information based upon what you're doing. And it's not like if you click on the wall, it's like we know what kind of wall you're building and what you're doing, in the context of that. But well, I think one of the benefits of something like artificial intelligence is that, based upon what you're drawing, AI can start to infer what that is in your phase of work, and what code might be relevant for that. So that's where I think this gets really interesting. Is not this, you click a button in Revit and some window shows up with help. It actually is much more smarter than that, based upon the procedures you're following inside of Revit, if that makes sense. And then again, as you're working with the codes, what we can also do is start to understand how often you visit a particular chapter and a particular book, by version of the book, and start to condense that information down. So almost like providing a cheat sheet over time of that. Oh, this is where I typically go, that you could then utilize for other projects, and print it out, give it to other folks on your team. But again, really kind of getting you to the right point of need based upon your past experience. So again, this is how we learn. And then also, this is in the future, this is how an artificial intelligence engine would learn too. That as it's watching how you do things in Revit and where you go in the codes, it starts to understand the why. And then it can offer you information in real time, once it starts to understand how you work within the codes. And then that also, I think, ultimately leads to things like checklists, where, okay, you visit the codes in this form and fashion, in this way, looking for information when you're doing things in Revit. This can easily be turned into a checklist for a project that can be utilized over and over again. All right, so the next topic, in terms of kind of focus, is around construction documentation. So in this phase, technical information is added to the drawings to serve as instructions for how to build the project. The plans are then submitted to the local building department for code compliance review, and these drawings are submitted to general contractors to secure final construction bids. So again, I showed you a little bit about this, where we can copy and paste any sort of the code information right into your anywhere in the construction documentation that you're creating, again, as reference material for the readers. In terms of kind of feature functionality, a couple things here is that we want to be able to create the ability to do annotations where you can actually hyperlink to the code section, so that if you print this out, and a viewer is looking at this, or it's in PDF format, those people can click on these active links and go to the codes, again, where you called them out. And then on the left-hand side of my menu bar, there'd be a links feature where you drop down, and then you can actually click on all the active links in your sheet set that you've put in there, and you can make changes, delete them, update them as needed. But again, this is really to really empower construction documentation to say, okay, all this stuff is actively linked to the specific information in the codes themselves, based upon what you think is most important to call out. Again, when you're annotating your drawings. Some other things that we're looking at too, and we started some of this process with a third-party vendor, is also putting in calculators for area, allowable area, occupancy, plumbing, and so on. So that's coming. You can see today, in our browser, we had this code calculators menu item, and right now we've got a number of structural engineering calculators up there for use, and we're now looking at things in the AEC world that are coming next for that. So that'll be a part of this, and be able to take that information and again populate a cover sheet with that those calculations. Something simple we can do that we're probably going to implement is that once you've told us what the site and location are of the project, we'll make it easy for you to drop in a map for a vicinity map option. So that's just something that's an easy outcome by having this project information. So look for that coming soon too. So then, next up too is that as we're building out these features that are starting to tie Revit closer to code usage, we're also, think about this, there's another layer on top of that where we are looking at what other applications we could solve for. And what we've done, this may be too much geek talk, but what we've done is we've engineered the Revit plugin to be actually its own desktop application behind the scenes. So it's pretty straightforward for us to take everything you saw here today, except for the Revitisms, and actually make it work for any number of other applications like an AutoCAD or a MicroStation, or name your favorite solution out there. So again, this is what we're thinking. So as we get into next year, we're starting to think about like, okay, what are the next things that products we need to support. So then when we I'll just pick on like an ArchiCAD. We want to support ArchiCAD, then or a Bluebeam. Then what we would do is we can rewrap what we've done on our desktop application, and then we have a plugin for Bluebeam and a plugin for Revit, and then all the feature work we would do would benefit both applications moving forward. So that's kind of how we're thinking about all this. More coming soon, I think, on this front end. And I'd love to hear from people about kind of what your expectations are of other applications that we should support with something like what I've shown here today. So that's a bit of kind of, I'm almost at time here, but that's a bit of a wrap of kind of like, what we've done to date and kind of what's coming next on our roadmap. And I think just in terms of like bookkeeping, like here are some events that we are going to be attending. Just a couple of the biggest ones. So like in October, this whole team is going to be in Long Beach at our own International Code Council's annual conference. There's a link there. Well, there's a big exhibition hall. I'll be there talking about all this kind of work that we're doing within Revit. And then we are in attendance at all the AIA major events. So we'll be there in Boston in June as well. And again, I am happy to, in between these major events, I'm also happy to have, host other events in firms. If you're interested in talking more about this or have ideas, happy to jump on a Zoom call with the team, your team, and talk through kind of what you want something like this to do and for what applications. Always available for that. So the product is available now. Again, as I mentioned at the top of the call, 22 through 24 is currently supported. 2025 I'm hopeful that if I get through my testing the rest of this week, we can launch it on Friday. Other than that, it'll be next week. There's a download page on our own ICC website located at codes.iccsafe.org/Revit. Or I also post this up on the Autodesk App Store. So if you go to the App Store under the Revit umbrella, you can find us there too. I mentioned before, if you're looking to do, as you're working through this, if you want to try the Premium Complete, which is kind of the all-in everything, there's a free 14-day trial for that. And again, here's my email address for the team. If you want to have any feedback or inform the roadmap or just have us together on a call, this is the place to reach us. And lastly, we have a nice big YouTube site where we have, this webinar will be posted, and I also post updates for each build that gets released, and other helpful videos are located there. And I think that is it. So I'll leave the screen up, and I'm done. And I'd be happy to take any questions or have a discussion about anything that sparked an interest or what. So Phil, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, there was a few short questions here, nothing very technical. Just confirming that it is easy to access now. People already have the Digital Codes Premium, so I did post that link that you have in here along with the 14-day free trial. And yeah, the 14-day free trial, just to make note of it, does open up all the features. So all the other things that Eric was mentioning, like the AI navigator and the calculators, you can try all those. And it really is free. There's no credit card needed. There's no obligation. So we do encourage people to try that out and check out the user videos if you got any questions, or you can contact me. I'll post my email in here. So what I'll do, I guess, is ask if anyone wants to ask a verbal question. Maybe it's a little bit more in detail. Feel free to raise your hand, and I think I know how to unmute people. But other than that, I will let the recording go for just a little bit more here. Or keep posting in the chat. All right, I do not see anyone that is rushing to come to the podium. Eric, you want to close with anything, and then I'll turn out the recording and I'll monitor for a while till everyone leaves?
I'm happy to stay on, and I would just say again, I want to thank everybody for their attendance today. I appreciate it. Your time is valuable, and so hopefully this was of help in understanding kind of what we're creating and where we're going. So appreciate everybody's time for sure.
Thanks, Eric. I will end the recording now. I appreciate everyone attending. We will stay on for a little bit here in case there are messages that come in, and I'll post my email in here for questions specifically on Digital Codes Premium. Thank you, everyone, for attending.